You know, I was going to think of a funny intro for this review, but I'll just let the intro to my review for Venom in 2018 do the talking because I feel exactly the same way. Welcome back everyone, James here with another real review, and yes, today I'm getting right into my spoiler-free thoughts for Venom, Let There Be Carnage. A huge thank you to Columbia Pictures for giving me the chance to watch this early in-person for review. Now if you don't know who directs the film and who's in it, we might as well get through that now. The movie's directed by Andy Serkis and stars Tom Hardy, Woody Harrelson, and Naomie Harris, and yes guys, it's in theaters October 1st. Now I would love to tell you this is a layered story and I can't just sum it all up in one sentence, but well, I can try. Eddie Brock and Venom are still adjusting to life together and going through the ups and downs of their friendship while Cletus Kasady, a man Eddie helped get put on death row for his murders, comes into contact with Carnage, a symbiote that wants to see the world burn along with Eddie Brock and Venom. Man, you know what? That summary actually doesn't sound half bad, but before we get into what I thought worked in this movie and what I did not like about Venom, Let There Be Carnage, if it is your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James, where we break down movies like this all the time, so you're not going to want to miss out. Go ahead and hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, and tap on that bell, y'all, and hit the thumbs up button if you're a fan of Venom, because listen, I know there are some people out there that love these movies, and if you do, that's fine. Just let me know in the comments below exactly what you thought of this sequel and if it lived up to the hype for you. Alrighty, y'all. Well, you know what? Let's waste no more time and let's get into what I thought kind of worked in Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Again, it is no secret that I did not like Venom, but at least Venom, Let There Be Carnage is better than the first film. Now, it's not better by a whole lot. It's maybe like a hair better, but man, I'll tell you, at least there were some bearable moments in the sequel. And there were even some issues from the first film that I had that were sort of fixed here too, like Tom Hardy's voice for Eddie Brock. In the first movie, guys, he had this weird New York accent that made him sound very naive and almost like a dweeb in some moments, and I understand that's the approach for the character, but I didn't like his voice in the 2018 film. But here, at least I could get through scenes with him talking in complete sentences. In the first film, I was pulling my hair out. There's also that change in hairstyles for Woody Harrelson, who plays Cletus Kasady. At the end of the first film, of course, by now you've probably seen it, but they reveal Cletus Kasady and he has this awful wig. It's probably one of the worst wigs I've seen on screen in a film in my entire life. I mean, Carrot Top would have been pissed. But I'll be honest, I do think that, to me, his hairstyle here at least fits his character better than whatever it was that we got in 2018. And hey, speaking of the antagonist, at least this sequel also gives us some sort of substance for Carnage and Cletus. I see what they were trying to do with this character, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and I'm not saying it was successful, but at least there was something there for me to chew on even just a little bit in the first act. It wasn't necessarily just, hey, here's a cut, copy, paste villain like we got in the first film. I still don't remember that antagonist's name, but I will tell you, at least Carnage here is a step up from the villain that we got in the first film. But y'all, with all of that said, it is time to talk about why Venom, Let There Be Carnage did not work for me, and honestly, it does rank among one of the worst movies of the year. And this all starts with Andy Serkis, a director who I know is capable. He's a great actor, and even though I didn't like his one film Mowgli, I did recognize that he can bring a creative eye to anything that he touches, and I wish that happened in this film. Unfortunately, Andy Serkis didn't do anything to help the film, at least for me, and his voice was nowhere to be found here. And when I say voice, I don't mean audible voice, I just mean his style. There was nothing unique about this film. I could not tell you this is an Andy Serkis movie. You could have put any other director in this chair and probably got the same result, because it felt more like a movie by committee rather than a unique entry with a character like Venom who is basically ripe for good storytelling. I just wish we found some of that here. And this film also hits the same notes as the first, which brings me to my next point, because as someone again who did not like the first movie, Let There Be Carnage is doubling down on that formula, and it did not work for me. Guys, I couldn't vibe with any of the jokes. All of the humor was just ineffective. I don't remember laughing once. Maybe I chuckled a couple of times in the beginning, but honestly, I didn't really care for any of the humor here. The writing was just all over the place. Venom's banter with Eddie Brock was always going to be full of jokes, I get that. But the problem is, there's an overdose of Venom where I could never settle into a scene. It's just punchline after punchline, and then eventually this film dives headfirst into being campy, which is fine, I guess. It's a comic book movie. But at the end of the day, we've gotten some really good comic book movies that have a dose of campiness to them, and they're still able to be taken seriously when the movie tries to develop characters. See, there are so many moments here where, including all the villains that we get, like Carnage and Shriek, I do feel like the movie's trying to tell a certain story and get serious, and I just could never take it seriously. And speaking of villains, guys, I was completely upset with how they handled one character, and that's Naomie Harris's Shriek. The basis of her character is she's in love with Cletus, and her character's ability is to, well, shriek very loudly. But what doesn't work for me is the fact that they give her some awful lines of dialogue. I mean, some of the most cringiest dialogue in this movie is coming from Shriek. I mean, golly, I was just like, guys, we live in a time where you can probably get decent enough screenwriters who are familiar with the source material to develop something good, at least good, but we didn't even scratch that surface. Instead, we got a character that had bad motivation, and the character arc itself was just awfully lackluster. It's almost like everyone involved didn't care that they had a legend like Naomie Harris, and instead just gave her some of the worst material I've seen in a movie this year. And also, y'all, I was fighting off sleep because that storytelling that we talked about earlier, oh gosh, it was just boring. This movie is completely bland, and I know that fans of the first are probably screaming at me right now, but I just didn't find anything in this sequel to be layered or even look good. At no point did I even say, oh wow, that is a really well framed shot, or oh my gosh, the action here is shot really well. Instead, I was just bored at what I was looking at. And the score doesn't help here either, guys, which is incredibly generic, but let's circle back to the storytelling. I can understand where they're trying to go here with the film. They're really trying to magnify the relationship between Venom and Eddie Brock, and how they have to try and coexist, and the question is, can they coexist? I think it sounds good on the surface, but it's the way that it's executed which ruins the film for me. Tonally, these moments are crushed under the weight of absolutely awful scene setting. I mean, Venom is getting his moment to express his true feelings in a nightclub with glow stick necklaces around his neck? Come on, man. Like, this is just D-level movie making. You have to be at least consistent. What I'm hearing Venom say doesn't match up with anything I'm seeing. And yes, okay, maybe I should come to expect that, but you know what? I do feel like a film that's a sequel to a movie that I clearly don't like, I was hoping for an improvement in this area, and we didn't get that. As for the performances, guys, I can't tell you that there are any standouts here. Is Tom Hardy great? Yes. Is Michelle Williams capable? Absolutely. Honestly, I'd venture to say that every one of our lead cast members are good to great. It's just that within the context of this movie, guys, it's a dreadful experience. Oh, and as for that mid-credit scene, I'm just gonna say this. I'm not happy about it. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people that were like, oh, it doesn't matter about the film. The mid-credits is what's really important. And unfortunately, it has been spoiled out there, so I'm not touching on that here in this review. It is spoiler-free. I just do not like what they're doing. We'll talk about it in the comments if y'all really want to have that discussion. I was so frustrated. So overall, you guys, Venom Let There Be Carnage is a little bit of a step up from the first film, but it's just not good enough for me to tell you it's worth your time. I mean, there's just so many missteps here, from the writing to the directing to the acting and to even the storytelling, because I do think there's a decent foundation here for the sequel, but with a short runtime where they're rushing through all of our character motivations and everything in terms of the action scenes felt short. The comedy, well, that actually lasted a really long time, unfortunately, but you have some of the more dramatic moments that just felt like they were breezed through. Nothing for me stuck with this movie. And of course, I get it, there are going to be some things here that fans are going to love, and if you are a fan of the first movie, I do think you'll love this. But if you feel just like me, where you weren't sold on the 2018 movie, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna be honest, you might want to avoid this movie because it ain't that much better. So there you have it, you guys. That's my real review of Venom Let There Be Carnage. Again, it's in theaters this weekend, October 1st. So when you see it, get loud down below. Let me know what you think. Do you agree with me? Do you hate this review? Actually, if you even remotely agree with me, let me know, because I have a feeling there are going to be a lot of people in the comments calling me a dummy head. That's actually the PG version. And hey, if you want to see more reviews and reactions on the channel, don't forget to hit the big red button below and subscribe. Tap on that bell and hit that thumbs up button, y'all. Guys, it is going to be such a busy rest of the week and into the rest of the year, so you're going to want to stay subscribed. I can't believe we even have Dune still left to go, and that's in October. That's this month? Or actually next month, because this review is coming out a day before October. My mind is all over the place. I'm going to go get some rest, and I'll catch you at the next screening.